This is a phone I've wanted to use for the longest time, the S24 FE. 1 month later, let's get into it. Oh wait, did Google drop a Pixel? Did Apple drop an I've been waiting the whole year to look into the S24 FE, and as you'll know, this is the first time we have an FE phone on the channel, coming in at $550 before the holidays. So chances are this is getting cheaper. And I know this is a whole 1 month later video. We're gonna talk about all the experiences, all the good and the bad, but I wanna start off with opening this up out of the box. It shook me. Immediately, you're seen with this glass back. It's got a glass back, a glass front, and obviously the 3 glass cameras. Like, it is incredibly reminiscent of the original S6 that first came out, or the iPhone 4S, the last good iPhone that Apple ever put out, and I like that. And it's heavy too. It has substantial weight to it. It is heavier than the Z Flip 6, by the way, so it does have weight to it. And to wrap up the retro vibe, it has some phenomenally gigantic bezels, at least for 2024. And I'm into that. I know the Reddit heathens absolutely despise bezel culture, but they also despise my reviews. You better watch yourselves. So honestly, hardware side, it doesn't feel $500 at all. It feels premium, and this is coming from someone who goes through a ton of different phones, the Samsung Flip, the Samsung Fold, the Samsung Ultra. So we're really edging really close to the flagship lineup. It's guys, it even has an on-display fingerprint scanner, and it works pretty good. There we go. Let's take a peek inside, because look, Samsung had to cut the cost somewhere. You can't put together a flagship device and then offer it for 50% off. Somewhere they cut the cost, right? But before we go inside, please smash that subscribe button because it really helps grow the channel like this one, and it's free to do so. And also, if you want to join the monthly merch giveaway, which is available to anybody in the world, definitely smash the follow button on our Instagram as well. And the winners are going to be announced on the Instagram every single month. Okay, so when you turn the phone on, the first thing you see is the display. Wow. And it's gorgeous. 6.7-inch AMOLED display. The Google Pixel is 6.3, the new one, the 9. Garbage. And it has 120Hz adaptive refresh rate, so animations look super smooth. And in real life usage, the only times I've noticed a difference between this and something like the S23 ULTRA is when it comes to brightness. This just won't get as bright as the flagship line, but that doesn't mean it's not bright. It is sufficiently bright, it just doesn't get as bright as the flagships. But even then, the colors indoors, I mean, take a look for yourself. They look super vivid. And if that outdoor brightness really impacts you, just slap on an anti-glare screen protector for $5 and you got yourself a proper outdoor device as well. Okay, so Samsung, what's going on here? You've got a device with flagship level hardware, a display that is beautiful. It is a beautiful display with top of the line specs, AMOLED, 120Hz. Where's the cost cutting? Where did they cut this cost? It's gotta be the cameras. It's gotta be the cameras, right? They cut the cost in the camera department, right? So I've been using these cameras for a whole month, and did at any point I want to go back to the S23 ULTRA? Before I answer your question, let's talk about the processor that's in this bad boy. So this phone just came out a little over a month ago, and it's using the Exynos 2400E, which is essentially just an enhanced version of a chip that Exynos put out a year ago. It's a powerful chip, but it's nothing like the 8 Gen 2 or 8 Gen 3 you get in the latest phones. So let's take the Exynos 2400E and couple that with 8 gigs of RAM, which, by the way, the S24 PLUS has 12 gigs of RAM. So 8 gigs RAM, 2400E, how does that compete? It runs games. It'll run the game, okay? So on the heavier performance department, it'll run Genshin, but not at highest levels. You can't run Genshin at 60 FPS. I mean, you can, but you're gonna get consistent and constant lag spikes, which make the game a little annoying for people like me. Plus, your graphics are going to be medium. They're not gonna be at the highest setting. And with those settings, you're still going to get a little bit of heating. Not a little bit, it can get uncomfortable, especially because the Exynos chip is not known for heat management like the Snapdragon chips are. So we're talking at about 10 minutes, you're going to start feeling this side of the phone heat up substantially, okay, where it gets a little bit uncomfortable. So if you are thinking about gaming, you're gonna wanna get a case on this phone. Now, I personally do prefer a thicker phone if I'm gaming, just because it feels a little bit more natural than a really thin tablet. But other than that, it does heat up on the top half. But that's more on the processor side. Let's talk about the manifestation of 8 gigs of RAM in 2024. 6 Chrome tabs at once, That's all you can run without any glitching and without any hindrance. And that same thing goes for apps as well. 6 apps open at once is your maximum. Once you go above that, you'll start seeing glitches when you open a new app. It'll take a while to load, or apps you already have loaded are going to just randomly restart. Those are the kinds of things that happen when you start pushing too many apps at once, or you have too many Chrome tabs open at once. Okay, so let's assume you're not a psychopath and you're not running 80 Chrome tabs, you have like 4 open at most, and let's assume you're not a gamer.
We have to be honest with ourselves before we do anything.
Then this phone is more than enough for your daily needs. For the everyday person, it'll handle your load without any issue at all. But what about the camera? Okay, let's get back to the camera real quick. So Exynos chips, 8 gigs of RAM, how does that boost the camera performance? Well, first of all, we're getting proper camera hardware. The 3 camera setup, front facing pinhole camera as well. The hardware is there, and it's really good hardware. And it's held back a little bit. It's held back just a little bit because of the Exynos chip and the RAM shortage, essentially. Especially when we talk about zooming. So if you're doing heavy zooming or your low light situation, so you're at nighttime, you're in the dark, and you want to take pictures, these 2 situations are when the processor is required the most. And it's in these 2 situations you're gonna get the worst quality when you compare it to something like the S24 PLUS, not compared to something like the OnePlus. So again, the pictures aren't bad. They're just not as good as the S24 PLUS. Keep that in mind. The front-facing camera is also okay. It's not super detailed, and for a lot of people that might be just fine. You don't want your pores showing in 4K, but it does, you know, kind of blur a little bit of detail, especially if you have like a beard or something. It is gonna blur things around. And by the way, again, we've been comparing this $500 phone to a $1,000 S24 PLUS, not even the S24 regular, the S24 PLUS, okay? And if you want to talk about the Pixel 8a or whatever, that thing doesn't even stand in the shadow of this phone. That's like Kurenai versus Itachi. She thought she was gonna do something. You thought you were gonna do something, it's not gonna do nothing. That phone is 0 value when Samsung put this out. But it gets better, the battery. We're talking about a 4700 milliamp hour battery in this beast compared to the S24 Plus, which has a 4900 milliamp hour battery. So how does that, you would think it performs similarly. 200 milliamp hours isn't a gigantic difference, but you gotta remember the S24 Plus has an 8 Gen 3, this has a Exynos. The 8 Gen 3 chip, one of its major advantages is that it's amazing at heat management, but also battery efficiency is a beast on that phone. The Exynos chip isn't really known for battery efficiency, so even though the battery size is comparable to the S24 Ultra, its battery management isn't anywhere close. And so what my usage looks like is about 11 hours of screen on time, or just basic usage. But for me, I do need to charge this at least once a day, generally in the afternoon, but I am more of a power user. I am running Edge panels, I'm using split screen, I'm using Galaxy AI, and it has all of the latest Android 14 features. And for some charging specs, charging this from 0 to 50% takes about 30 minutes, okay? And Samsung has the audacity to call that 25 watt super fast charging. 25 watt super fast charging? No, that ain't fast, Samsung. That ain't fast. I would recommend someone in your R&D department go check on the minions running the batteries. They might be high on some fumes. One of these days, I'm gonna get a caller ID from Korea, and then you know it's all over. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, the S24 Plus has 45 watt fast charging, and that is more normal fast charging. But do keep in mind that when we say 25 watt and 45 watt, the whole charge period isn't actually gonna use 45 watts. It might peak at 45, generally in the lower range, but as you get closer to 60%, 70%, 80, 90, 100, the charging speeds always slow down. So, you know, it's just a metric that people like to throw around, but it's definitely not super fast. I'm gonna stay on you, Samsung. I'm gonna be here and keep roasting you on that, okay? That's not funny. Calling 25 watts super fast is not funny, man. No, stop. Finally, let's talk about AI, the features. Because if you have watched my Tab FE videos, then you know that none of the tablet FEs are getting any AI features. That's just the way Samsung wanted to do it. The phones are different. This has all of the AI features that the S23 Ultra has, the Z Flip 6 has, and all of the latest flagships. It's got every feature in the book. And what's even better is that all of these AI features are computed on the cloud. So they're not using the device's processor to power the features. And so what that means is the AI experience on something like the S24 Ultra is going to be the exact same as on the S24 FE. I can't get used to saying that. S24 FE, that's weird. All in all, you're not missing out on any AI features or any Android features. And plus, Samsung is providing you 7 years of updates. It's a Samsung promise. So what does it mean to be fan edition? What does it mean to be cheaper? What does it mean, people? In the past, it meant having the latest chipset but older hardware. You would see LCD displays on some of the older FE tabs. That's what it meant in the past. But right now, FE essentially means you get older chips. So not super weak chips, not super powerful chips, but still older chips enclosed in some of the latest hardware. And so for the non-power users, the people who search what a Geekbench looks like on Google, those people, I think someone's in my room. I think Samsung has arrived. This is hands down one of the best value phones you can buy in 2024, no questions asked. Do you want to see me expose one of Samsung's biggest scams? Then go ahead and click here for that video. Or do you want me to roast some of the worst setups imaginable and help them get better as well? Check out the video right here. But until next time, take it easy. Peace. It's a Samsung promise.